I really seemed to notice something, that there wasn't a person who had mental health disruption who didn't also have some kind of sleep issue. And I was like, there's something in this. When anyone comes to me and they say I don't feel very good or something's not going well in my life, the first question I ask is, what's your sleep status like?
Sleep is really important for our well-being. So, it's important for mood, but you don't know why. And I think it's like, if someone said to me, it's great for mood, I'm like, yeah. But when someone says to me, it cleans your brain, suddenly I'm like, does?
We clean our bodies, we clean our teeth, we clean our faces, we clean our rooms. But the most important thing to clean is our brain. So many people feel like, oh, my life is awful. I hate my partner, I hate my job, my kids are annoying me. It's because they're just literally walking around with dirty brains. I don't think people realize that when you are sleep deprived, your whole perception of the world changes, and actually how people perceive you changes. Sleep deprived people actually remembered 81% more negative memories and only 32% positive memories.
The biggest myth about sleep and stress you wish people would stop believing.
That sleep when you're dead, that you can catch up on sleep, and that being able to push through sleep is a sign of toughness. It always catches up. Are you actually getting into deep, slow wave sleep? Are you actually cleaning your brain? And if you're not, that's the best place to start.
Welcome to SWIISH Wellness Unlocked, the podcast that cuts through the noise and gets straight to what works. We're your hosts, Sally Obermeter
and Maha Corbett.
We're founders of a global wellness brand that's been changing lives for over a decade. Every episode, we're going to explore the latest trends. We'll dive into breakthrough science and insights from leading experts to help you live, feel, and look your best. No fluff, just facts that work. Let's unlock it.
Sleep. It's the ultimate secret weapon for your mental health, mood, and resilience. When you're sleeping well, everything feels easier. But when you're not, stress hits unbearable levels. Your mind turns to mush, emotions spiral, and even the tiniest tasks feel impossible. You're wired, exhausted, snappy, anxious, and it starts wreaking havoc on your health, your work, your relationships, pretty much everything. So how do we fix it? I'm excited to be joined by Dr Jemma King, an expert in stress, sleep, and recovery. Dr King holds a PhD in human behaviour and is a fellow at the University of Queensland School of Psychology. Her groundbreaking research touches on areas like stress, sleep, recovery protocols, biometrics, and emotional intelligence. Now, she has consulted for some of the most prestigious organisations in the world, including McKinsey & Co., the Australian Defence Force, the Australian Institute of Sport, and even the Australian Olympic swim team. In this episode, we break down the science of sleep, why it's so much more than just rest, how it impacts your stress levels, cognitive performance, and mental health, and most importantly, what you can do to fix it. Let's unlock it. Okay, so cleansing our brains. Let's talk about this. So that process happens during our sleep with the adenosine.
Yeah, I think we clean our bodies, we clean our teeth,
yes,
we clean our faces, we clean our rooms.
Yes.
But the most important thing to clean is our brains.
Absolutely.
It is essential, and we're doing so many things throughout our day that thwart our capability of effective brain cleaning. And there's a paper that's come out and said that it happens during the deep, slow wave part of our sleep. But there was a more recent paper that said there is some theories that we might do it sometimes throughout the day. You know when you kind of zone out and sort of disassociate every now and again?
Yep. It happens.
Yeah, they think that could be actually a brain cleaning function.
And so with the deep sleep, because I think, so you were saying earlier about that hopefully we get 5 of those sleep cycles in a night, which when you say it like that, honestly doesn't sound like that many. When you say that, I know they're roughly 90 minutes, but when you say it as hopefully we get 5, you're like, far out, 5 is nothing. That's not much, right?
Well, 68% of the population do not get that.
Wow.
That's more than half. That's a significant amount of people.
Yes.
And what's even more scary, there was a HBR, Harvard Business Review paper, and they asked leaders, do you think sleep deprivation affects your leadership abilities? And they're like, no, it doesn't.
But we all know that's not true. Yeah,
no,
absolutely. I mean, look, and I think if you were to ask any parent, entrepreneur, overthinker, any grown up, any adult who's dealing with life, I mean, there are so many. Again, coming back to what you might attribute it to, but like there are so many pressures of modern day life and work and juggling things, and though there are people who not just have kids to look after, but parents to look after, and just life as you say. And so, I think we all, in theory, go, oh yeah, I really want to prioritize my sleep. But we don't necessarily always know why we need to. We know that like it's good to sleep. We know that a lot of us know, the body repairs itself, or we might know that like mood is associated with sleep, but it is so much more detailed and so much more complex than that.
Yep. Just knowing like I always thought sleep was super boring, and I was always the one last out, last to go to bed. I would never sleep. I used to drive my mother insane as a kid. But then I started to realize, oh my God, it's just there's not a system in your body that is not affected by sleep deprivation. Psychologically, physiologically, your relationships, your self-esteem, your motivation, your cognition, your ability to regulate weight, how often you get sick, your propensity to develop cancer. Like it's no joke. It's probably the most important function of our bodies. And you think about, it's a pretty crazy phenomenon for humans to be totally vulnerable. Like if you were a hunter-gatherer, like you were really in a dangerous, precarious position being, blacked out, out in the open where predators can eat you. So it must be a very, very important function if humans are willing to risk being vulnerable for that many hours.
Yeah, you had to be on top of your game when you were out with the lions.
Yeah, and like I think that, I was saying before, so many people feel like, oh, my life is awful. I hate my partner. I hate my job. I hate my kids are annoying me. It's because they're just literally walking around with dirty brains and they haven't cleaned out the adenosine. They haven't, had that lymphatic cleaning process, and just things just feel overwhelming and just feel like I just can't cope. And then you feel like you haven't exercised, you haven't eaten properly, you haven't been very nice to those around you. So it's just like this cascading series of events that can just start with a bad sleep.
And how much of it is bi-directional? Like how much of it is that the lack of exercise or the mood, et cetera, is affecting the sleep versus the sleep is, lack of sleep is affecting the mood?
Yeah, it's really hard to determine what is the, initial direction of causality. And it's cyclical. I think that they both bang up against each other, and it's very, very hard to sleep effectively if you haven't moved your body, if you haven't, moved your lymphatic system, if you haven't used your muscles and, had some kind of cardio. And then it's really hard to do cardio and do exercise if you haven't had a good sleep. So, everything's interrelated.
Absolutely. And so you touched on some of the mental health issues like around anxiety and depression. Can we talk about that a little bit more and how the deprivation actually impacts on sleep deprivation, impacts on mood and impacts on those sorts of, cognitive functions?
Yeah, I don't think people realize that when you are sleep deprived, your whole perception of the world changes. And actually how people perceive you changes. So we know that when you're sleep deprived, you produce more cortisol, which is the main stress hormone. And cortisol has a whole range of negative consequences if it's left unchecked. It puts on hold all of your housekeeping duties. So that's, scavenging up, cancer cells and viruses and bacteria. It, stops your immune system. It stops your digestion. It affects your gut biome. And we know that cortisol actually destroys some of the bacteria that produce serotonin in your gut. So about 85% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. And so people don't understand that sleep affects your gut biome. Your gut biome affects your happiness. So that's one of the, the methods of causality. So we also know that when you are sleep deprived, you have about 60% more activation in the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, because you become more hypervigilant.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
So when people are sleep deprived, you see that there's a greater activation, by 60% increase activation in the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain.
Yes.
So also, if you are to show sleep deprived people ambiguous faces, just pictures of people's faces, and you say, tell me what emotion that person is feeling, invariably they will choose a negative emotion. So they perceive negativity on faces where there is none. So you think that through.
Yeah.
So when they ask sleep deprived people to recall positive memories versus neutral or negative memories, they sleep deprived people actually remembered 81% more negative memories and only 32% positive memories. So when you think about how did my day go, or how much do I, like that person, or what do I feel about that person if you're doing a performance review, or you're thinking about your kids, and you can only remember negative things, that has a consequence.
Definitely.
We are 33% less empathetic when we're sleep deprived. So when you think about parenting, like when your kids go, "Mummy, I feel sick," or "Oh, Mummy, I'm tired," and you're like, go to bed.
Just go to bed.
So you literally are less empathetic. When we produce more cortisol when we're sleep deprived, people perceive us as less competent, less trustworthy, and less confident.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised in a way, because if I think about just from my own personal experience, when I've been in periods of sleep deprivation, I haven't felt confident, right?
Yeah.
And I also feel like I can't get my sentences out, and I don't remember what I was supposed to say, and why did I even walk into this room? And absolutely. And I think I'm not surprised in a way that is ultimately how I would have been perceived by somebody else during that time, because also that was how I was feeling.
Yeah, there's a decoupling between your amygdala, your fear centers, and your prefrontal cortex, which is like your reasonable adult part of your brain. And there's a disconnection, there's a lower activation between those two parts of the brain when you're sleep deprived, because when you're sleep deprived, you get more reactive, and you they've done lots of experiments where they ask people to do gambling games, or to either you choose this risky option or that risky option. And people who are sleep deprived on average will choose the riskier option.
Wow.
And they are more likely to overestimate the benefits of that risky option, more likely to underestimate the negative consequences of that risky option. And more interestingly, when new information is presented to that person, like, "Oh, you've probably made a poor decision, these are the reasons why," they are 40% less likely to listen and take on board that information and change their minds. So basically, when you're sleep deprived, you're grumpy, you're stubborn, you're unempathetic, and you get fat.
That is quite the combo.
And you don't smell very good because you're producing cortisol.
Oh my gosh, that's it's so true. I want to ask you about sleep apnea, insomnia, those types of sleep disorders. How do they exacerbate the kind of mental health side of things, the anxiety, the depression, etc.?
Yeah, sleep apnea is a huge problem.
And just for context, should we define it? So is it when you're not breathing correctly while you're sleeping?
Yeah, you have the inability to have regular breath cycles. And depending on the severity of it, people can actually stop breathing for sometimes up to minutes. So it's really quite severe oxygen deprivation that has serious consequences for mental functioning, dementia, mood, Like it's like hundreds of little deaths throughout the night. And so, so many people in their 30s and 40s are now having to sleep with sleep apnea machines, CPAPs, passion killers, right?
And is that like
it's an oxygen
device? Yeah.
I just read a paper. One of the good things about the CPAP machines is they actually reduce hangovers quite significantly.
Well, that's good to know. It's a benefit on the side.
But you can imagine what that does, like where if you're traveling or you're dating or and you've got to get out a CPAP machine.
Yeah, is this also why a lot of people are doing mouth taping?
Yeah, there is conjecture around the effectiveness of mouth taping. Some people swear by it, others say it doesn't really do anything. But I think it's individual. Like if it does help you, do it.
Yeah, but better than the alternative. Yeah.
Yeah, like I really am conscious about trying to breathe, because if you breathe through your nose, inside your paranasal sinuses, there is enzymes that produce nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is this amazing molecule that it has an extra calmative effect. It's vasodilating. It kind of calms you down. And so if you can breathe through your nose, that's much more advantageous than breathing through your mouth. Yeah.
Let's talk perimenopause, because one of the things that we hear quite often from women in our community who are perimenopausal is that they're often, they have disturbed sleep. They're often getting up through the night, particularly I think around that sort of, 3 a.m.-ish, mark, and finding it hard to go back to sleep. What is that about?
Yeah, it is a massive issue, and there's a very strong correlation between people who sleep less than 5 hours a night and earlier onset perimenopausal symptoms. Yet sleep deprivation really exacerbates perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms.
Wow.
But it also, there's this bidirectional thing. So when you get hormonal dysregulation, you're a lot less likely to have good sleep. When you have poor sleep, you have dysregulated estrogen production. So it's kind of like, again, this cyclical effect. So there's many reasons. Of course, there's homeostatic temperature dysregulation.
Night sweats.
Yeah, so your sleep is very tightly coupled with temperature. So your core body temperature needs to drop by 2 degrees Celsius to get into deep, slow wave sleep. So if you're, having hormonal fluctuations and temperature fluctuations, it's a lot harder to get into deep slow wave sleep. You might find yourself waking up. So
what would you suggest for anyone that's in perimenopause and struggling?
So don't wait and go to your doctor, get tested and get on hormone replacement therapy. I'm a huge advocate of it. I think that old study that showed the correlation between breast cancer and menopause was a violation of female human rights, honestly. That study did so much damage to so many women. Like, honestly, go and get low-dose HRT. It will change your life. The brain fogginess, the mood, the low libido, the inability to make decisions, just bone aches, everything. I like frozen shoulder. Honestly, I think that go and get tested. So definitely reducing alcohol is a big thing. Reducing stress, if you can do that, which is really hard, because when women are getting to this stage of their life, it's usually when they are holding the bulk of the caring responsibilities. They've usually got kids getting into year 12. They've also got aging parents that they have to look after. And it's usually when they're kind of like hitting the peak of their careers as well. And there was a study done by, I think it was the British Women's Legal Society, and they found in a survey that 75% of the women who were surveyed said that their divorce was as a consequence of unmedicated, uncared for menopause symptoms. It just wreaks havoc on your life.
And also, I mean, there's all kinds of stats around, how many women have had to leave their jobs because it's been so disruptive to them, and like obviously affects their, confidence. And it's, it's so impactful in so many ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've had previously on the podcast Dr. Joanna Bruce, and so she's a big advocate for, you know, for hormone therapy, but also like testing, not just, you know, she does the estrogen and the progesterone, but also looking at testosterone because for some women that's also a really big issue.
Yeah, we do have testosterone. I think people don't realise that. I mean, it's less than men, but we still, like, our ratios are quite high.
Yeah, and also it gets some of it gets converted into estrogen as well, and like, for a lot of women it's something that I haven't necessarily thought about or explored. But
for those that don't know, I think there's a petition going around at the moment trying to get female testosterone onto the PBS. So anyone listening, Google testosterone petition and sign it. They need 10,000 signatures.
Okay.
Tell your husbands too, because
I think they'd be
they'd be very happy to know what the consequence of getting testosterone. So honestly, that I think all women need to.
You have to be informed, I think, and really and empowered, because I think it's, you know, it can make such a huge difference. It can be so debilitating, as you say.
Yeah, for sleep,
and especially when perimenopause can go for, you know, up to 10 years potentially, and it's like, why suffer through if you don't need to?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, for women who are hitting that stage, and for anyone really who wants a good sleep, I think there are so many things that you do starting from the minute you wake up throughout the day to ensure that by the time you're hitting your pillow, you're in the best position possible to get the most effective, most efficient sleep. You know, I'm all about how do you get the best sleep when you don't have time to sleep? Because let's face it, we are pulled in so many directions. We have so many competing priorities. And I think what women do is we make, you know, what we think are hidden shortcuts. We take, you know, the chunk out of ourselves, and that's typically we shorten our sleep because everyone else's priorities are so much more important than ours. And we're like, oh, we'll just stay up a bit later. I'll just, you know, get up a bit earlier, or I'll just, you know, push through. And then we don't realise that this has this cascading consequence, second order effects. If we, the mother, the wife, you know, the caregiver, the person holding the family together is not getting sleep, everything else is going to fall to bits.
You know, I heard it was Dr. Becky, you know, I don't know if you know her. She's a parenting expert. But anyway, she said, imagine getting on an aeroplane and the pilot says, hey guys, anyway, listen, I haven't really been sleeping that much. I've been getting a few hours a night. Not great sleep, but I am still getting a few hours a night. But don't worry, I love flying and I love my passengers so much. So it'll probably be fine. So I will take care of you. She's like, you would be like, for the love of God, get off the plane and go and sleep. Like, you cannot be in charge of this, you know, this aeroplane. Why is it then that the rest of us think that it's totally fine?
Driving kids in cars and
to like totally, and to think we can get through life and function at our peak every day when we haven't looked after ourselves and we haven't had enough sleep. And I heard that and I was like, that's a brilliant analogy, because I would not want that pilot flying that plane.
I just think, like, you know, we've had this culture where it was always like this badge of honour. I've only had 4 hours of, you know, sleep. I can get through. I'm tough. And it's just like the worst culture to think that, and particularly in the medical fraternity, you know, you've got doctors, like, you know, we did this study with emergency surgeons and doctors, and we're like, it is really, really concerning. If anyone should be sleeping, it should be them.
Yeah,
and they're not. There's this bizarre culture that, you know, it's almost like a hazing culture. I did it, you know, got through medical school. I did my intern. I did, you know, my residency. I didn't have to sleep. You should do this too. It's, you know, you think of all the medical malpractice events that are just predicated on the fact that someone hasn't.
There's some big investigations going on at the moment around that. I was reading recently. And I heard a doctor say he literally has to plan for his micro sleeps on the way home.
Because he crashed, I remember when I was having, I think it was my first child, and I could overhear the nurses talking about how they'd been to a party the night before, and then I was getting an epidural, and the doctor came along with this big needle, and I grabbed him I had a lot of gas, mind you. I grabbed him and I said, "Did you go to that party last night?" And he looked at me. He goes, "What party?" I'm like, "The party. Did you go to the party?" And I said, "When was the last time you slept?" Because I said, "You're not sticking that needle into my spine if you're not, if you're sleep deprived."
Yeah.
He goes, no, I'm okay. I could see he was very tired, but
It's not good.
Yeah. But there are so many things we can do if we know the science.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so tell us, so you mentioned that starting from when you wake up in the morning, you can prepare for a great night's sleep. Talk us through what that might look like.
Yes.
Give us all your best advice.
Yep. So this is a formulaic approach to a good night's sleep. So when you wake up, what you should not do is reach straight for your phone. All of us do it. It's kind of like, think about the most annoying person at work or in your life. Would you invite them into invite them into your bedroom and get them to lie next to you and tell them everything that they wanted to tell you that annoyed them? Like, you wouldn't do that, right? So essentially, when you reach for your phone first thing, you don't know what you're going to see. You're not going to see what text, what catastrophe is happening in the world. I don't know, what terrible stress-evoking imagery that it's going straight into your eyeballs first thing in the morning. Because what this does, so typically when we wake up, 30 minutes post-waking is our highest, when we get our highest cortisol. Response. And it's supposed to do that. So that's, giving us the energy to get through our day, and then we sort of slowly go down. But if you wake up and see something, your cortisol just spikes, then it totally dysregulates the cortisol for the rest of the day. And it just primes your day to look out for negativity, for danger. You're just not in the greatest mood, right? You haven't just slowly eased into your day. So number one, try to sit there and lie in bed and go, you know what, I'm super grateful for this, or do whatever that makes you feel good about the day. Then get out. Of course, I think we've all heard about this. Get photon exposure.
Yes.
So try to get 10
directly in the eye, like on your face, in the eyes.
Preferably, if you can, not behind glass.
Yeah.
And if you've got a phone, you can get something called a lux meter. So this is free app that you download, LUX, and it basically tells you how many lux are in your environment. So you can hold it up. So you want about 10,000 lux for 10 minutes, first thing in the morning. So hitting your retinal cells. So they're basically just brain cells just hanging out of your skull. So what this does, it tells your body when to, get your go-go hormones to go up. But it also does something really interesting. It sends a message to your circadian rhythm when to produce natural sleep pressure. So 16 hours after the first photon exposure is when you get your natural sleep pressure. So that's where you can start planning. So if you think about, okay, I've woken up, count 16 hours ahead, you then go back 1 hour and then go, okay, from that time, no, stimuli, no phone, try to sort of have this sleep routine, start to down-regulate so you are in bed ready to go on that 16-hour point. Because if you push past that natural sleep pressure, what your brain thinks is like, oh my God, what's going on? From a hunter-gatherer perspective, there are like two, maybe three reasons why humans would not go to sleep. Hunt or being hunted.
Yeah, I was going to say danger.
Or having babies, right?
Yeah.
Or making babies. So that would be, that would make you produce cortisol and adrenaline. So if you're pushing past that 16-hour sleep pressure, you go up and then it makes it harder and longer for you to get to sleep. So that's when people go, I go into bed, I'm so exhausted. You get that tired but wide phenomenon. I'm like, I really need to go to sleep, but I can't. Well, you've just missed that window of opportunity. So make sure an hour before that 16 hours or 15 hours, you're getting ready. You're turning down the lights. You're not eating food. You're not looking at awful things on your phone. But going back, so get up, try to get light exposure. Then I would sort of delay caffeine ingestion for 120 minutes. So you're like coming off that ride. So just when the cortisol starts to go down, you don't want to have coffee straight away because again, you're giving yourself that.
So 120 minutes from waking or from after I've done my my sunlight?
So around about from waking.
From waking,
yeah.
okay, yep.
And I also believe that in the morning you should have protein for breakfast. If you have simple carbohydrates, you get this kind of seesawing effect of your blood sugar. And when you're, so if you eat, I don't know, like cereal or toast, your blood sugar goes up, you can produce insulin, it drags, the sugar out of your bloodstream, then you go down and you get this kind of refractory period where you get low blood sugar. That actually creates cortisol. And that can actually make you feel quite anxious. So we know that mood is highly correlated with blood sugar fluctuations. And so you want to have very smooth mood. You want to have very smooth cortisol throughout the day, not this. And
if you had to pick a protein, does it matter? Eggs, yogurt?
Yeah, I like nuts and yogurt and berries. I like, egg on very heavy rye bread, avocado. So, anything that not sweet. So I really avoid sugar. So just getting that good protein throughout the day. And then when you're at, work, we know that, sitting in a confined space, looking at a small screen, when your eyeballs are sort of convening on the same little small spot, it gives you this high metabolic burn of your brain cells. It creates cortisol, it creates stress. And so this accumulative effect of cortisol build up throughout the day, some people believe it's why you get that 3 a.m. waking. And so what you can try to do is have nano intermissions throughout the day where you either go out, get on, look at green, go for walks, horizon gaze, but try to have, nano intermissions, have, 30 seconds of resonant breathing, just sitting there, just like disengaging. You can listen to some,
like meditative sort of music,
non-sleep deep rest audio. Just 30 seconds. I've got this, wave of like a ball that I pull up on my screen. I just breathe with this throughout the day. So I call it, nano intermissions. Hydrate throughout the day. If you can, try to do your cardio exercise within the 4 hours before bed. So there's this recent research that's come out from a huge study from Whoop. And they said that if you are doing high intensity exercise in the 4 hours before bed, you're doing two things. You're increasing your core body temperature. Your body doesn't like that to get into deep, slow wave sleep. But it also increases your cortisol. So anything that is 50% above your maximum perceived output, so HIIT, boxing, high intensity running, will disrupt your sleep.
Okay.
So try to have your
give yourself 4 hours at least before.
Yep. Also, this is a huge factor, which I had no idea until I started looking at the data, is if you have heavy protein in the 2 hours, 3 hours before bed, your body will prioritize digesting that protein, like meat, over deep, slow wave sleep. So you can imagine your body does not want you to be sleeping with a big chunk of decomposing meat in your stomach. So it's like, I've got to get rid of this. And so it'll do that rather than get into deep, slow wave sleep, because they're both parasympathetic activations. And so if you have protein for lunch or a really heavy breakfast and then have vegetarian at night, huge difference in your sleep. Yeah, it's insane just how
I think sometimes it's worth with these things to keep almost like a little diary as well, like what did I eat and did I know, like over a period of time, nothing's instant obviously, but like, did I notice any difference over a period of time?
Yeah, that's why I really like, I use the Whoop.
Use a tracker,
WHOOP. I've used it since 2017 for all of my research. And this is, the reason I like it is because you've got this journal function. And so you can put in, what did you eat? What did you do? Did you have, what medication did you have? Did you have acupuncture? Did you sauna? And then at the end of the month, you've got this correlation matrix of this like little mini experiment. And so when I was working with the Olympic team, because they've got such a short time, they've got, what's their recovery protocol, what's expensive, what should they really be doing and really target. We could work out that for that individual swimmer, that type of recovery protocol really worked and that one didn't, because we could see on the data on the Whoop, and because everyone's individual.
Yeah.
So, definitely, I think going back to your point, writing things down is incredibly important before bed. So another thing that we think creates the waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning is that you have unresolved emotional discomfort or disequilibration in your brain. You're like, so just imagine, like, when you go to sleep, you've got like this nighttime librarian that has to file away all of the emotional memories of the day. Like, do I put it in this box? Do I put it over here? And sometimes these emotional memories are just too much for the librarian to go, okay, I know where to put this. So it sort of like wakes up the boss and says, what do I do with this thought? What do I do with these memories? It's so emotionally evoking. Can you please help me? And that's why you wake up. So I have I call a name to tame or a brain dump protocol. So before bed, you will write down all the things that are worrying you. But what's essential is you write down, I'm going to have a worry hour around, like 10 to 11 is probably the best time, because when your cortisol's the highest. Oh, it's not low then. And you go, okay, I'm going to deal with having to ring the school and talk about Sam's behaviour. I'll do that at 10:15. At 10:45, I'll ring the taxation office and deal with my tax. At 11, I'll do this. And if you put the time next to the thing that's worrying you, your primitive brain goes, oh, okay, you're actually serious about this. You are going to do it tomorrow. Okay. So brain dump before you go to bed, and then in the morning, you then have that worry hour, and then you address that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and then you won't get this kind of like waking up. You may, but that it might reduce the incidence of this 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. waking.
I love that. Okay, great.
So more things to do is do not have sugary snacks before bed. I think we're all guilty of.
I mean, we know that.
Yeah. Well, people who sugary snack sleep on average 26.
Refined sugar or just any sugar?
Anything, because data shows you will sleep on average 26 minutes less if you've had sugary snacks before bed. It's kind of like putting fire in the furnace. It's like increasing your resting heart rate. Also gives you gut biome dysregulation.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
There is that. Okay. All right. So let's just, in closing, just circling back to the mental health piece, because I do feel that that's so incredibly important for us to talk about, and really appreciate all of your insights. What advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with their mental health, and particularly those aspects we mentioned, like anxiety, like depression, when it comes to sleep?
Yeah, well, actually, there's some people that use sleep to medicate or as a disassociation tactic from depression, anxiety. Like some people would just sleep 10 hours a day. Anything over 9 hours, if you're not an elite athlete, has been shown to be correlated with certain conditions. So if you've got teenagers or yourself are sleeping long hours, you should probably look at that. But if someone is struggling with anxiety or depression, as I said, I would really recommend investing in a sleep tracker. Whoop or Aura, they've been sort of the best validated, and finding out, are you actually getting into deep slow wave sleep? Are you actually cleaning your brain? And if you're not, that's the best place to start. That's something tangible that an outcome you can actually change. Yeah. You can look and say, I need to improve my deep slow wave sleep by 15%. We should be having, anywhere between an hour and a half, 2 hours of deep slow wave sleep a night. That will change your life. And so in order to do that, you have to get those 2 hours before bed. Yeah. You're also producing a lot of your human growth hormone in that window. You don't get much of it after. So I would be really cleaning up your diet. Yeah. There's so many things that create brain inflammation, artificial colorings, flavorings, what are they called?
Like additives.
All those additives, sulfur dioxides, preservatives, they create inflammation, and inflammation can actually make you feel anxious and depressed. Just literally having an inflamed brain and an inflamed gut and poor serotonin production. So really, cleaning up. Also, we know that moving your long skeletal muscles, your body produces something called myokines. So these are proteins which actually have an anti-anxiety properties. So moving your body throughout the day, like we all know endorphins are good, and it's just, endocannabinoids are good from exercise, but they've just recently found these proteins that are produced by movement. I would definitely talk to people about it. Reach out, social connection.
Definitely. And like chat to your healthcare professional, chat
GPT too. Yeah. There's if you are struggling, start talking to ChatGPT about what you do, and ask it to create a specialised sleep plan for
routine,
you. It's really effective actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm putting myself out of a job.
No, I love it. AI doing
definitely. Yeah.
Something positive I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Are there any emerging trends or new research that you're really excited about?
Lots, yes. I'm just trying to think. So sleep tech is huge. So human-centric lighting, a lot of organisations are starting to, especially with shift workers, we know that shift workers on average die 15 years earlier than non-shift workers. Yeah, like the incidence of cancer and heart disease is much higher, even divorce. Because of all the reasons we've spoken about. Yeah. So, people are using chrono-training glasses where the light will change according to their sleep cycle if they're on shifts, having, special lighting, really important if you are a shift worker, to really, really take extreme care of getting good, healthy sleep. I myself have been trialling the 8 sleep mattress, which is an absolute game changer.
Is this the layers?
It's so there are beds you can buy, but I've just got the topper, and it's got these vesicles of water, and it's incredible. So there's a lot of complaints like my husband runs hot and I'm freezing. We're fighting over the doona, and we often go and sleep in different beds because we just don't sleep that well. This will save this. Literally, I think this technology saves marriages. So it will find out what's the ambient temperature. It looks at your heart rate variability, your sleep cycle, your age, all these things, and it will change the temperature of the mattress according to what time it is, what part of your sleep cycle it is. This is a game changer for perimenopausal, menopausal women. If anyone's having hot flushes, get the 8 sleep. But it's differential, so your partner has a different
body temperature. Yeah.
And then you wake up in the morning, it said, I made 36 adjustments, or
oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like having this little friend just monitoring.
You seem cold.
I was given one of these to trial it, but honestly, if I had to pay for it, I would. It's incredible. And if you unfortunately have a little bit too much to drink, because alcohol really does overheat you and dehydrate you, it definitely reduces the incidence of hangovers.
Gosh.
Yeah, okay. 8 sleep. I really highly recommend it. But I think, having in my room, I'll always have a red light on in my bedroom instead of turning on the overhead lights. I think that's really good. There's so many things that are coming out, sleep monitors, that just are really individualized. And I think if you can afford it, it's really worth investing in your sleep.
There's so many effects on so many areas of our bodies and our life, as you've so eloquently helped us to understand today. I'm going to ask you super quick rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest myth about sleep and stress you wish people would stop believing?
That sleep when you're dead, that you can catch up on sleep, and that being able to push through sleep is a sign of toughness. It always catches up. There's a few people who've got the DEC2 gene that can live on 4 hours a night sleep. It's quite rare, 1 in 100,000. There's an overrepresentation in politicians and generals that have got it, but most of us mere mortals, we need 7.5 hours.
Can one bad night's sleep really affect your mental well-being the next day?
This is a really good question, and I think that the greatest, especially particularly when I was working with Olympic athletes, was so many of them would get really, really kind of upset about not having one night of bad sleep, and it would ruin their performance. And I was like, one night of bad sleep, although the research shows it's not that good, you can actually cope on it. What is really important is to deconflate sleep deprivation with sleep deprivation anxiety. Mm-hmm. So if you've had a bad night, what you've got to do is look for evidence that you actually feel quite good and if you actually feel quite fresh. And I feel quite amazing considering I haven't slept, because the metabolic cost of anxiety and rumination about negativity and looking for evidence that you've had a bad night's sleep is actually much worse than just a bad night's sleep. Yeah. The greatest predictor of how well you do cognitively the next day is your perception of how you slept. So that's one night's sleep. You can totally get through. You'll be fine. After about 3 days of poor sleep, you really will see significant decrements in cognition, physiology, all the things we spoke about. But one night, you know what? You'll be fine.
You'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Jemma. That was incredible, absolutely incredible. My mind is...
Well, thank you for having me, and hope everyone gets a good night's sleep.
Yes, here. All right. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Wellness Unlocked. We touched on issues of mental health. If you are struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to a healthcare professional. In Australia, you can also contact Lifeline on 131114.
Well, that's a wrap on Wellness Unlocked. If it hit home, then hit follow, share it, and dive into the show notes for all of the links and any of the resources. Head to SWIISH.com for more, and if you're in Australia, you can also find us in Priceline stores. Now, we want to hear from you what resonated, what you want more of, and what you're curious about next. This is your space for wellness that works.
Remember, everything we cover is for general informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult your healthcare professional before making any changes to your health or wellness routine.